Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to one of our regular live webinar slots. My name is James Williams. I'm the Director of Programs with the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. Now, some of you coming in now to this session may never have come across our organization before. Very quickly, we have 210 members, mobile operators, business messaging companies, cybersecurity companies, banks, insurance companies, stakeholders from across the mobile world and indeed from around the world are members. We are neutral, we're a not-for-profit. We provide a great platform for the mobile industry to collaborate and go about growing itself in a sustainable way. And ultimately, it's about protecting the end user as we do this. Now, one of the regions that doesn't come up so often in discussions at conferences is the Middle East. Many of us have been to business messaging conferences around the world, and we hear often about Europe, we hear often about the Americas, we hear a lot about Africa and Asia, but not so much about the Middle East, and that is about to change. The Middle East is a very fast-growing market in the world of business messaging, and I'm pleased to be moderating the session, kindly sponsored by Sama Telecom today. And from Sama, we have their Chief Business Officer, Mariam Shah. Mariam, welcome.
Hi, James. Thank you.
Hello. No problem. Welcome. Good to be joining us. Now, again, when many of us have gone to so many industry events, we've listened, I'm sure, to many different panel discussions about many different topics. And a lot of the discussion seems to end up around mobile network operators. And what's particularly fantastic about this webinar is we don't just have one, not two, but we have three major mobile operators represented. So I'd first like to introduce Gabriella from Etisalat. And hi. Just pop your camera on and we're going for it. So we've got Gabriella. We have Nadir Patel from Omantel. Nadir, welcome. Hi, Nadir. We have, hey, we've got Tamara Al-Bakri from Vodafone in Qatar. Hi, Tamara.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. And we also have represented, because it's important to have represented, the world of chat apps, and that is Cristina Constandache, who is the Chief Revenue Officer of Rakuten Viber. A warm welcome, Cristina. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, James.
No problem. Gabriella, hi. Good to see you. Yeah. We're back. Oh, you're on mute. My usual trick. Don't worry. Yeah, we'll get that fixed.
Hi, James. Hi, everyone.
It always happens. I'm just waiting for the child to come in, the pet to jump over, and we're all set. We have a fantastic webinar here. So the structure of the webinar, very simply, Mariam is going to take it away with a very short presentation framing the Middle East region, what's going on in the world of business messaging, and then we're going to have a lovely discussion. Now, you, the audience, if you have any questions to ask any of the speakers, please feel free to do that in the chat. We have the Q&A box here. Our speakers are standing by, and I can ask the questions live as well. So please don't be shy and use this opportunity to get some information from some fantastic learned speakers. Mariam, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Hello, everyone. So firstly, I would like to say that Sama is actually glad to partner with MEF to bring this interesting webinar today. So thank you, MEF, and especially you, James, for gathering us all together today to discuss this hot topic. And today we have with us industry experts, which I would like to thank all of them for taking out time. And of course, a special thanks to all the audience who joined us. So allow me now to share my screen so that I can start with a very quick and brief presentation, which will gonna be a kind of introduction to our discussions for today. So here we go. So again, this is Mariam Shah. I am working as the Chief Business Officer of Sama Telecom. Sama is a well-known name in the Middle East, providing our services since 2008, dealing in both voice and messaging business. And we have recently joined MEF, along with our memberships with GSMA and ITU. We are specialized in traffic management and gateway management and fraud prevention and network monetization for both voice and messaging. And we are also providing some other solutions and services, among which are the business messaging solutions like Viber and WhatsApp for Business for our clients in different parts, especially in the Middle East. Now, let me take you through the topics that our experts are going to discuss during this 1 hour today. And I am sure that these topics are interesting for everyone, as usually we discuss the same during our conferences. So today I will start with presenting briefly the trends, especially the A2P messaging in the Middle East versus the world, where then we will talk about various topics like the importance of authentication and its different methods. We will talk about the growth and opportunities in the market, about the different challenges like the impact of regulations and the different types of gray channels that we see. And we will discuss other business messaging channels like OTT channels. And we have Cristina from Viber with us to elaborate more on this. Looking into the figures and numbers in this slide, it's good to mention that all researchers confirm the continued growth in the A2P business. And we can see here a correlation of growth between the Middle East and the global markets for both international and domestic A2P messaging business. And in fact, we can see as well that the domestic A2P growth in the Middle East is expected to be double than the international A2P growth, domestic A2P growth. And the main reason behind this is the existence of a huge number of enterprises that still rely on the messaging as one of its main communication channels. Let's talk a little bit more about the reasons behind this growth. And it is mainly in the Middle East, it is mainly due to the continued investment that mobile operators are putting in to develop their networks, especially when we talk about the 4G and 5G. It is as well due to the growth of the smartphone penetration in this region. And like other regions, the A2P channel is still considered as a cost-effective marketing channel in most of the countries in the Middle East. And on top of all this, the governments in these countries are encouraging the digital economies as part of their long-term visions. And this growth in digitalization is actually leading to the growth in the business messaging requirements across all industries and enterprises. You will find some very high-level information in this slide, like, for example, the number of mobile operators in the Middle East is around 50, with almost 400 million subscribers. And the encouraging part is that the smartphone penetration is around 80%, which is way higher than many other parts of the world, with an approximate ARPU at $12 per user. And it's nice to mention that the Middle East is in fact a home of large and valuable mobile operators and groups. And you can see the names listed here in this slide. It's also good to mention that the countries in the Middle East are actually leading on 4G and 5G penetration as well. My last slide is about the penetration of OTTs in different parts of the region. And the main OTTs that are being used by the users in the countries in the Middle East are WhatsApp, Viber, and Telegram. And thus we see that the major other business messaging channels in the Middle East are actually these top 3 OTTs. With this, I would like to end my presentation, and I hope it was helpful to start our discussion today. Again, I would like to thank all the speakers with us, and over to you, James.
I'm doing the trick. I was muted. Yep, own worst enemy on that. As you were talking, Maren, literally within 10 seconds, we had a question, and I actually responded back saying, what do you actually mean? Because I wasn't certain. And the question is the increase due, so the increase in messaging we're seeing in the Middle East, due to the innovation traffic generated by SMS aggregators? And I thought, what does that mean? Then I thought, I know what you mean. You mean the artificially generated traffic created by aggregators. Nadir, you're smiling, so I'm going to come to you first. Artificially inflated traffic, artificially generated traffic. It's a big issue. It comes up so much at MEF events, within our fraud and revenue assurance working group, so many other conferences around the world. It's not something new. It's been there, but it's getting bigger and bigger. From your perspective, from what you're seeing in Oman, and what's your take on it in relation to that? Is some of that increase, the big increase in the Middle East, because of more problems, shall we say, with this artificial traffic?
Yes, the smile from my side was more because the anonymous attendee used the word innovation. Well, and I would say
as I questioned that, but then I thought, I know what you mean. Innovative. Yeah.
Yes, you cannot deny the fact that there is artificial traffic being generated across not only the Middle East but even the globe, and the growth that we are seeing is partial mix of a genuine increase in the traffic that is happening, plus this artificial traffic that is coming up. We have seen on our network also the certain amounts of headers which get whitelisted in a very legal and professional way, but then they are just messages that have been generated. Now, there are two issues here when we discuss about the artificial generation of traffic. One is that actually gets terminated on the mobile network, and the second is which doesn't get terminated on the mobile network operator. The second case is the very clear case of Twitter. So there was an issue that happened in December 2022, and because of which the owners of Twitter took some very drastic reactive response, and we see that we lost the Twitter traffic completely on our network. We didn't see that growth on Twitter when this scam actually happened, but we lost it completely. Now Twitter is sending out emails to authenticate subscribers in Oman, and then we also see at the same time certain SMSs that do get terminated on our network, and that ends up into a dispute. So the carrier in between then comes back and says that, oh, this was not a genuine traffic and it was never supposed to come to your network, but I took it and I delivered it to you, and now we need to sort things out. So yes, we are seeing this innovation in the traffic going around, and we are trying and fixing the situation with the help of the firewall and certain rules. Yeah.
Thank you. Tamara, the same to you. Are you seeing it as well?
We do have the same issue and the same problem as Nadir will explain it in Oman. So we had the same experience here. And as he mentioned, it's not only limited to the Middle East, it's across the globe. So yes, we do have this challenge. And I think that it will be more and more. This is a green market, and it's green market for genuine traffic, and also green market for the other type of traffic. So it's interesting for them as well. How to fight it and how to have a good control is the key here. And we're all here to listen and to learn and to hear about the challenges from others. And we'll leave it to the industry leaders and vendors to come up with innovative solutions for such challenges for the mobile network operators.
It is a challenge, and it ultimately will create issues for the enterprises, because the enterprises are the ones paying the bills. to all of us. They're ultimately paying our wages, all of us at the end of the day. All roads lead back to the enterprise. And what about the regulation side of things? Because if things get too bad, there's a real risk that the regulators might step in. And Nadir, as you mentioned Twitter, and a lot of that immediate harsh reaction by Elon Musk was because he can send people to Mars, but he doesn't perhaps understand the stakeholder structure within the world of A2P messaging. And very simply, if you have good suppliers, good credible suppliers, you won't have those issues. It's as simple as that. But Gabriella, in the UAE, are you seeing these issues? And are you seeing any questions starting to come from any regulatory body or anything like that? Starting to think what's going on here, you mobile operators need to do more, et cetera, et cetera. What are you seeing?
I would say that in the UAE, yes, indeed, there is a huge growth in traffic, but I would say it's mainly due to the fact that everything, of course, it's moving online, as well as digitalization being the vision of the leaders of this country. So with that, we see huge growth, of course, in domestic traffic, but we as a mobile network operator, we took the right measurements and protective measurements to have our network protected. And I can say proudly that we can do it up to 95, 96%. Of course, there will always be 4%, 5% of fraud here and there, but at this moment, I cannot say that here in the region, we are really, in the UAE, we are really facing this. And that is thanks to choosing the right partners and right technology and having everything in place to avoid that from happening.
Perfect. Mariam, so here in the UK as an example, I've been in the industry a long time, and I rarely saw anything in the mainstream media or TV or press or any communications from credit card companies at all warning you of this stuff. But there's a lot of attention now over SMS phishing, smishing. So problems generated by SMS being delivered to people and people literally falling for things, and some people sending their life savings to criminals and bad actors. In the Middle East, in the countries you operate in, have you seen in the past couple of years as well, particularly since COVID came along, that the media is starting to pick up more on messaging fraud and fraudsters and things like that? Has it become mainstream in the Middle East?
In the Middle East, when it comes to this type of fraud, mainly, I think it is more controlled than other countries in the world, due to the fact of that the regulators are setting a lot of policies in the Middle Eastern countries, and we all respect these policies set by the regulators and by the mobile operators, because at the end they have to keep their customers and their subscribers safe. So I think that in the Middle East, when we talk about this specific type of fraud, it is less than the other regions in the market. But of course, yeah, it happens. It happens in some countries where you can see that there are no regulations, or the price is no more controlled due to the new agreements coming on the table with the mobile operators. And then this opens the eyes for other fraudsters and the people who are generating the traffic and who are artificially sending the traffic to start to send such type of traffic. So it depends on what countries, because different countries in the Middle East have different policies and different regulations. In some countries, we can see that the regulations are very strict, and in some other countries, we don't see these regulations. But almost in the majority of the countries in the Middle East, yeah, the regulations are setting very strict policies, which are helping.
Cristina, obviously you're well known for your Viber chat app. You are Rakuten Viber after all, but your company has been a long-term player and a very big player in the world of voice as well, and of course SMS. So we have a question here from Rui Olo. I would like to understand the trend by economic sector and the kind of traffic that is generated. So is it one-time passwords, marketing campaigns, etc., etc.? When it comes to artificially generated traffic, what is it? Is it marketing, or is it mainly this one-time password 2FA traffic that's generated?
You asking me or you asking everyone?
I'm asking you. Yeah. Because everyone else has spoken. Yeah, give you a chance.
So obviously we're exposed to fraud as an enterprise that is actually sending OTPs. However, like somebody else was saying earlier, it's a never-ending fight. So we're constantly investing in measures to fight fraud, which by definition will evolve and will do something else. There is no solution to it, but the fraud that we're seeing would probably mostly come from OTPs. On the other hand, given that Viber is also used as a channel to send messages or A2P messages, not so much OTP, but A2P in Viber as an alternative to SMS, or rather in addition to the SMS, there we're seeing a lot of marketing campaigns and more what we call transactional messages. I think the distinction to make here is that is not one or the other in terms of choosing channels. They can and rather should work in parallel depending on the needs of the enterprise and depending on what they are looking to achieve. Typically, OTPs, even us as a brand, we see it, of course, more efficient being sent as SMS. And then for everything marketing related or anything that involves a conversation or rich media, it tends to work better through OTT channels.
Is it, and why is that? Is it because people have been conditioned to SMS for so long, they're so used to receiving one-time passwords as SMS on their phones, that it's the user experience element for SMS? Even if there was the option to send one-time passwords via Viber, would you still use SMS?
You're asking me or the others again?
No, you. Yeah, because you've got Viber. It must be you.
And no, it's I wouldn't say that the users have been conditioned. I would say that more the enterprises have been conditioned to use SMS, and ultimately SMS has a clear value in the marketing mix, or rather in the business mix. So it does ensure stable deliveries most of the times. It's a traditional channel. It has an established presence and reputation. I would say that it's the enterprises who choose to send OTPs mainly through SMS. However, all the enterprises now, and if you want, we're moving on to the next subject, are ultimately confronted with the price element and with the economics of actually sending
We're
SMS.
going to get to the commercial model very soon, but people don't want to let this fraud thing go. We've got a question from Malik Aisi. If the invoicing model is based on delivered messages, so the answer is, well, we can answer that certainly in the enterprise world. Yes, the enterprises pay for, do they, from mobile operators? And Mariam, can you answer this? In your region, do enterprises pay for all submitted traffic, or is it just typically all successfully delivered traffic?
It is not the same for all enterprises. So, but most of them, pay for per submission.
Per submission, okay.
Except for, but when we talk about big enterprises or big OTTs, no, they pay depending on the conversion rate as well.
Right, so that's the different business model. This whole thing of successful delivery ratio, failed, undelivered, has been turned on its head by the likes of Rakuten Viber and others, who it's all about the conversion. So yeah, thank you. That just answered that question. We've got one from Thomas Terkildsen. I know Thomas. And hello, thank you for your question. How do the mobile operators on the panel see their ability to meet messaging needs, and we're talking business messaging, obviously, from enterprises and brands. So, Nadir, are you equipped at Omantel to meet those needs, or is it a case of you partner with A2P messaging expert companies and that's all they do? So what's your strategy there, and how do you feel you can meet those needs?
Sure. So we have been a bit late entering the enterprise messaging market. We launched our messaging hub in September 2022, and we are targeting more to cater to our enterprise businesses in Oman. And if we can grow outside of Oman in the other 7 operations that we have in the Zain countries. So we are looking at establishing our own UCaaS solution sooner or later, but we are taking steps perhaps a bit too late, I think. But we feel that there is a big amount of small and medium enterprise entities in the Gulf region who are still wanting to get into the communication, but they still believe that SMS would be the only way to reach out to the customers that they want to reach out. And we are trying to explain to them that it is not the only way to reach out to the customers. There are other options which are coming up in the market. So we are looking at that approach.
Fantastic. Tamara, the same question to you. How are you getting on? How are you tackling this whole issue of working with enterprises for messaging? Are you working directly with them, or are you working mainly through known established A2P partners?
Yeah. So let me hear. I mean, as A2P, and I will talk about both domestic and international. So we do have our own solution, and we have the capabilities to be connected to small, medium, and large enterprise. We call it. They call it here inside the company bulk SMS, and I can say that we do have quite a good share, and we do have the right tools to support the customers. And the need is there, and we see that this piece of the business is growing year over year.
Can I ask you, but the question, you mentioned you've got quite a good share. I've run this type of panel in many different countries around the world, and you find actually many mobile operators directly don't have a very good share. It's quite the opposite. They really have a very, very low share. Could one of the reasons be where you have a high share is the cultural aspect, the traditional aspect? Because I know certainly, for example, in Switzerland, people for many years and decades have bought solutions and their internet connectivities at home from Swisscom. So Swisscom is very much in the psyche of people. Is it very much the case with yourselves, the Vodafone brands, your positioning and your experiences? The people on the average person on the street, the average business, they know your brand, so you automatically have that trusted position. Is that why you perhaps have a higher share?
This is one major element. Yes, I can say yes. The other thing, so it's a very well-known brand and trusted as well. Number 2, that the sales arm, I mean, is there, and they're actively working on this, the competitive pricing as well, which is good and bad. I mean, and we touched base before on the international, and I mentioned that in Qatar still till the moment it's not regulated, so the international prices is low compared to other countries in the region, and that's also another reason for having a high traffic for international A2P as well. So it's mix of many reasons, actually.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And Gabriella, same question to you. Etisalat, obviously your brand position in the UAE, super strong. And have you got a big direct sales force, as clearly Tamara has the Vodafone Qatar folks have a direct large sales force? Is that the strategy you're employing to get that business messaging, or are you working more with partners? What are you doing?
So of course, for us, and not only for MNOs in general, messaging being a very important asset, we are of course looking to grow it and to provide the quality routes and the right ecosystem. And we do work very closely with local aggregators here in the country and with enterprise direct. as well as with international partners who are willing to terminate the traffic within the UAE, and of course in all the other regions and mainly in our OpCos. So we cater both. We have the capabilities to cater both. And yes, we have a pretty high sales force for that as well. A very well-equipped technology as well as a very well-equipped team to do that.
Fantastic. Now, a question, I accidentally clicked the wrong thing in the Q&A and said, oh, it's answered. It isn't. Hisham Al-Zahani, this is aimed at you, Gabriella. In the UAE, the registration process for genuine A2P senders has become so draconian, it is hindering growth. For example, after completing CMS registration, brands and solution vendors must now provide digital copies of passports. Is this really the solution? What do you say to that?
I would not use the word draconic. I think it's a little bit dramatic. We need to keep in mind that at the end of the day, the customer is the most important for all of us. And we need to, of course, protect the customer privacy and protect their time. Hence, we need to have the right policies in place. So as I was mentioning, it is our responsibility as an MNO to first provide the quality routes and provide the right ecosystem for the brands to send their message out. So the policies that we are working with, along with our regulatory department here in the UAE, are just to protect the client. And what we are asking for, I would say, are the basic asks. And for a genuine company who really wants to do genuine business, should not be a challenge in providing all the required documents.
It was a very good question and a very good answer, because it comes down to education at the end of the day, because for so long people are perhaps used to, let's say, getting their messaging services from some not so quality vendors such as yourselves, and mobile operators such as yourself, Mariam from Samra, and you, Cristina, at Rakuten Viber. So they've used alternative routes, shall we say, and it's just there's this little extra hoop to go through if you want to do it efficiently and of high quality, but it's something well worth doing, clearly. Now, Mariam, it's clear from listening to the speakers today so far, there seems to be a little bit more regulation in the Middle East when it comes to business messaging than in perhaps some other countries and territories around the world. And it's great the consumer is protected, that's amazing. But if you go a little bit too far, there's a risk that genuine traffic is blocked, so that you have the false positive. What are you folks doing at SAMA, and what are you doing with your partners, and how do you think the industry is working in the Middle East to try and ensure that, it's a tough question, I know, and it's a tough answer, that you're striking that right balance between protecting consumers, but you're not blocking real traffic? Because I personally know that, and I've seen it, I've been on the receiving end of it, the damage that not receiving those one-time passwords when you're trying to complete an online purchase can do yourself. So what's happening in the Middle East from your perspective with the false positive side of things?
You're talking here about two different types of, let us say, false positives. So it's either that we are talking about the traffic that's being blocked because the enterprise or the brand is not being registered properly, or the traffic that is being generated or artificially created. So we have to deal with both in two different approaches. So when we deal with the traffic that it's coming from a, let us say, big enterprise client that we have and who is registering his brands, we of course have to all the time, as I mentioned, respect the policies that are set by the regulators and by the mobile operators, and we should keep this traffic blocked because the registration process has to be done. But the problem that we are always facing is, and Gabriella knows this as well, very well, the long process, the long time the process is taking to be able to register or to verify the brands. So this is from one side, and I think on this side, it's not us who should solve the problem, it's the mobile operators and regulators themselves who should somehow automate or somehow be able to provide easier solutions for the enterprises and for SMS aggregators like us. On the other side, you have the artificially created traffic that we should very carefully as well look at this traffic, and it's not easy. it's not easy at all to differentiate between the genuine traffic and the artificially sent traffic. So yeah, we have the teams, we have the tools, we have the AI is helping a lot. We have our analytics tools where we are able sometimes, not all the times, of course, to differentiate and to be able to block this traffic, because at the end, it's the risk is not only on the subscriber, the risk is not only on the mobile operator, the risk nowadays is as well on the SMS aggregator, because at the end of the billing cycle, you may get a dispute opened for this traffic. You may have, and this dispute sometimes would be of a big amount. So we should not accept this traffic. So what we are doing is, from one side, we are limiting, let us say, the number of our trusted clients and trusted partners with whom we are doing the business, because this matters a lot. And we are limiting it just to the people whom we know are not dealing with this type of traffic. And we are taking all the appropriate measures to be able to protect our network and our partners at the same time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mariam. Cristina, so statistics from industry research experts Mobile Squared come out with, there are over 300 million listed businesses around the world. So you go to the company registers of practically every country that makes these records publicly available. You add the number of businesses up, you get to a figure of over 300 million. Yet only 5% of them are using any form of text messaging, whether it be, I use the wider definition here, so whether it be SMS or whether it be a chat app service such as yours, Viber Business Messaging or anything like that. Why is that? What are we doing wrong as an industry, and what can we do to change that?
I obviously can't speak on behalf of all the enterprises that are not using text messaging. Again, I think it's a matter of it's a legacy issue. It's a being willing to test new channels, but this comes also with legacy issues. I think that enterprises that are very set in their ways prefer to use test and tried channels. I'm assuming in this case, because out of 300 million, if only 5% are using text messages, the numbers seems very, very low. So what are they using? Are they using email still? I'm assuming it can only be email because they need to use something.
But email is still the largest individual channel when it comes to transaction volumes globally. It's bigger than, for business messaging I'm talking about, it's bigger than any other individual channel, whether it's all chat apps combined or SMS combined. It's only when you add chat apps to SMS that becomes bigger than email. So email's still there.
Then it's what? It's legacy issues, it's cost. Obviously, email can be a lot more cost effective. Is fragmentation of the markets, because we know that both in SMS and in OTTs, the markets, the same actors don't cover all the markets. So it's lack of resources to integrate several solutions or several solution providers. It can be a number of factors. In our case, we don't sell directly to enterprises either. So we work with established partners. But when we do go to the markets to educate the market overall, meaning ultimately the enterprises, we do see that there is a large disconnect between what we push as innovation at industry level and, again, what enterprises are using based on the KPIs that they are looking to achieve. And again, it's different from market to market, but you're going to have a lot of enterprises, especially in tier 2 markets, that are a lot more traditional in the way that they're doing things. That being said, even if we're looking at the UK, you have the big banks, for example, that advertise so beautifully everywhere about digital innovation, and yet they are the first ones to use emails and very, old-fashioned channels. So what can we do? We can try to educate them more through the existing partners that each and every one of us is using, and directly to the each and everyone's marketing abilities, I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cristina. And if there was ever an example of how I can get things wrong and the pupil didn't do his homework correctly, we have the teacher, Mr. Nick Lane, who is the founder of Mobile Squared. So I used that quotation. He's corrected me. That figure on enterprise is using is for SMS only, James. So only 5% of that 306, I think it was, Nick, 306 million, if my memory serves me correctly, are using SMS. So of course, a number more will be using chat apps, but it's not a huge figure, even if you add the chat apps side of things to it. But
Probably lower than 5% anyway.
Yeah, so combined, it's going to be less than 10%. So that means there's a massive market. Now, Nadir, you mentioned, so Omantel, you've just started out on the business messaging journey yourselves. You mentioned you started out in late last year.
Late 20.
You talked about chat apps, though, and everything like that. Do you think it's possible with this traditional element comes up time and again, has come up time and again in discussions here with enterprises approaching things from a very traditional way? Do you think it'd be possible with education, with collaborations, with mobile operators all together on here, organizations like MEF, chat apps such as Rakuten Viber, getting the message out there actually that you may be an enterprise, you may approach things very traditionally with just say email only at the moment, but you can move directly into the world of rich messaging and chat apps. And you don't have to take these steps, email to SMS to chat apps. Is that possible? And is that something you're thinking of doing in Oman and indeed the wider group, the Zain group?
I think it's absolutely possible. And I think a lot of new businesses that have come up are the young generations, you know, and we still, I mean, when we're discussing about enterprise business, I think the focus and where we are not getting it right is that we are still focusing on the big banks, on the big OTTs, on the big enterprise customers. And, you know, how can we all, the 5 of us on this and the 65 other people who are on this webinar, how can we get those accounts to us? How can we grab their traffic? And we are not looking too much into the small and medium enterprises. There are youngsters who are now setting up their own businesses here in Oman, as we see, and even in the region, I'm sure. In UAE, you know, they're promoting a lot of innovators and, you know, individual people with qualifications, and they're going on Instagram, for example. They go on Instagram to reach out to people, as many people as they can, trying to broadcast their messages. So yes, what we are doing here now is we are trying to approach those small and medium enterprises, not necessarily selling them the traditional SMS business. We're not telling them that here is a package that I have for you, send 10,000 SMSs a month and you get some fills or some, you know, few amount that you need to pay. We are getting them to move to the next level of communication, where they can communicate and they want to communicate with customers in a two-way transaction. They want to know right now, if they're putting up something for sale, is it good enough for the customer or not, or what can they do in that? So yes, the focus has to move as an industry to the untapped market and not necessarily selling them SMS only.
Fantastic. Now, a question to the operators. I'll start with you, Tamara, from Vodafone. So sticking with the same topic, the richer messaging side of things, and again, moving away from the traditional side of things, how are you approaching that in your country, and how is it going? Because what I'm getting at is, Nadir mentioned Instagram, but if you go to the world of digital ads is worth $400-500 billion a year. It's a massive factor larger than the combined A2P SMS, for example, messaging market. Yet conversion ratios are so low. So how do we get the message across that, hey, rich messaging channels in particular can drive some awesome conversion rates? So why are you always continuing to use just, for example, Facebook ads or something like that, when actually we've got some lovely chat app solutions from the likes of WhatsApp Business Messaging, Rakuten Business Messaging, et cetera, that can do far more for you?
Yes, so from my side, I'm a big fan of having the right mix. as you said, I mean, the ultimate goal is to have a good conversion rate. We want people to buy or to, you know, to take the action. So why to eliminate one of those channels? For us, we prefer to have everything available. Of course, we can promote one channel more than the other, but we will always need the emails, the traditional messaging, the applications, the Facebook, the Twitter, and all of those digital marketing channels. It is needed. So, and it depends on the product or on the service that you're trying to sell, or on the type of communication. So if it's a two-way communication where the customer will respond to you and you will have that nice chat with them, you will need the rich messages and the chat applications. If it is only for authentication or OTPs, it's something else. So I think we do need the right mix with different audience, with different targeted segments. The communication will be different. Those tailored solutions is needed, but again, I don't think that the communication will be only on one channel. We will always need the right mix in different percentages, depends on the service or on the product that we're trying to promote. One can go above the other, but we need it. We need to have it all available, simple, trustable channels, and this is our strategy. I mean,
Tamara, that's the dream. Omni-channel, conversational commerce using a full stack omni-channel CPaaS solution. That's it. That is the dream. Mariam, Tamara raised a fantastic topic, and it's a lovely point that it's about the myths. Do you hear any discussions around the industry yourself where people are saying, oh, SMS is on its way out, everything's going to be moving to richer channels, whether that's RBM, RCS, or chat apps such as Viber or WhatsApp, and SMS is under serious pressure, we won't be seeing much of it in the next 3 to 5 years? Or do you think SMS will be around for a good number of years to come? Because we saw that smartphone penetration rates in your region, the Middle East, of 80%, which is really high for a complete region, and it's very, very good. But will there still be a place for SMS, for business messaging?
When we talk about the Middle East, the number one that comes is the security. So that's why we believe that yes, the SMS will still be there, regardless of the need, as Tamara mentioned, for the other messaging or communication channels. So when we talk about authentication, when we talk about, let's say, the financial transactions, I believe that the major industries, like when we talk about the financial services, the mobility services, the governments, the banks, they still believe more in the security of the SMS as the main communication channel for the authentication, and mainly when it comes to financial transactions. But when we talk about marketing, when we talk about digital marketers, no, those companies are now seeing this competition and are now seeing this big competition. So they are all trying to move to the omni-channel, move to the CPaaS, trying to use or integrate different types of business messaging channels into their platforms so that they can offer different alternatives to their customers. And it's up to the customer to use whether he wants to use the SMS or other business messaging channels which have more engagement with the customer. But still in the Middle East, the growth is there. And as I mentioned, it's because security comes first when you talk about the countries in the Middle East.
Fantastic. Now we're getting lots of questions and I'm trying to keep up with them. Gabriella, coming to you, on the verification side of things, we know SMS has for so many years been the principal channel. If it is not email, companies are going to use SMS. And we've been hearing it's because it's what they're used to, it's what they feel comfortable with for sending that two-factor authentication, SMS. But we have A2P flash calling, so flash calls. Are those something you are seeing more of within your network in the UAE and beyond? So the world of flash calling and A2P flash attempting to be used rather than perhaps SMS, and how are you as a network approaching A2P flash calling? Are you blocking all of it, or are you thinking about monetizing it? What strategy?
So of course, for us, SMS is the only authentication channel. So any other channel will not be considered legal, and we work very closely around our OpCos and with the regulator in the region to block it. Now, when it comes to flash call, of course, I am aware, we are all aware that it's an increasing, we can see an increase in flash call. As for us, as an MNO, again, I'm going back to the protection side of it. We work very closely with our technology partners, with our managed service partner, and we do have the right protection in place to block the flash calls. So we don't really face that problem here because we did take the necessary measurements to block it.
So that's the blocking. But flash calls in some different places, and some companies are selling it as a legitimate means of an alternative means to perhaps SMS and other channels, an email, of authenticating transactions, of providing 2FA. Is that something you're going to be doing, or you're not looking into doing that at all?
No, we are not. No, we will not be looking into doing that. And we also have a different division, a different, I would say, component of our team that looks into selling and providing the CPaaS solution. Coming back to what we were discussing earlier, it depends a lot on the customer preferred way of communication. So SMS will be the first, and then there will be the fallback options such as email, WhatsApp, etc. But no, we are not looking to monetize the flash call. No.
Okay, thank you. A very quick question, because I know flash calling comes with a lot. We've only got 10 minutes left. We've got all these questions coming in. We won't be able to get through everything, but very quick one to you, Nadir. We heard from Etisalat's take on A2P flash calling. What are you doing? How are you dealing with it in Oman and perhaps other Zain properties?
See, I think flash calling is a topic that has been under discussion for quite a long time, and I have been interacting with a lot of companies who say that we have solutions for flash calling and we can help you monetize it. I still have to see a use case, and I would be very happy, if any of the participants who are vendors can come up and have an open discussion on this. How can you do it? The reason why flash calls are there is because an enterprise sitting at the back end doesn't want to pay for the SMS anymore. Maybe the prices went too high. It was a 2 cent, 3 cent market, and then it went to 12 cents. And the guy realizes, I can't do this anymore. So he starts sending flash calls. And it's free. So they make use of it. You start monetizing it, and then you start increasing the price on it. And there's somebody's going to find some other way of doing it, right? So despite the flash calls, we still see a lot of brands and a lot of companies still prefer to send the SMS. They say, fine, if the pricing is reasonable and we can manage it, we want to do it because it is a more trusted and a more... I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that flash calls are illegal, but people find that it's better to be clean about the business that we're doing. That's how it is. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. I know we've got to move on. It's got so little time, but so many things to cover. Tamara, I can't believe it. We haven't talked about the commercial model, the whole pricing side of messaging, particularly SMS, on the commercial model side of things. Yeah. Now, as so many people in the industry talk about the commercial model, and there just happens to be, miraculously, a direct overlap in places where the commercial model is higher for example, A2P SMS, there just happens to be more fraud following it because guess what? We're talking about a bigger pot of money ultimately to play for from the bad actors and the fraudsters. How are you approaching at Vodafone the whole issue of the commercial model for A2P SMS and indeed other messaging channels? How are you approaching it?
Okay, let me tell you what's the situation here in Qatar. So the A2P messaging is not regulated. So until the moment, the price is quite low. And there is a big conversation about that. I mean, we want to monetize, we want to make more money. At the same time, we really care about the customer experience, and we want to facilitate that for our customers. And that's why I'm a bit against the fight of the flash calls. I think that the flash calls is giving the customers an easy experience. If we can have it in a controlled way, having the right measures, the security, of course, on top, then why to fight against it? Then we can monetize it. We can, I mean, it's one of the channels.
It's an alternative means of authentication. So your take is, rather than simply blocking all, let's get visibility on it, control, and that allows you to monetize. And then it gives enterprises ultimately an option, either SMS or, particularly Android. It's not so good for Apple iOS devices because of all the opt-ins needed. But for Android devices, it's a credible alternative. But I hear some sides of things as well with the whole security side of flash calling as well.
Exactly, but this is what I'm saying. I mean, if we can do it in a proper way, if we can, I mean, have it as a secured channel, then why to fight against it? And if it is used for things that is not really security sensitive, then it can be also done. My point that flexibility will enhance the experience of the customer. So of course, I want to think out of mobile operators, and I mean, we're here to make money and revenues, but we're also, I mean, as the first priority is to have a very good customer experience. I want to please my customers. I want to give them a seamless experience. Back to the pricing model in Qatar, till the moment the rates are way lower than the GCC market or the Middle East market. Why? Because it's still not regulated. I think it's coming soon. We want to monetize it. We want to have the right controls. But our strategy is to keep it reasonable, because we want to have this business sustainable for a longer time.
That's clear, and that's really good. I like that, and definitely that seems to be the consensus from members of MEF. It's all about the long-term sustainability. I'm not talking sustainability about saving the polar bears and saving the planet, but in terms of maintaining that as a viable channel, because it's something people know and love. Cristina, we are 4.5 minutes away from the close. Can't believe it. 270 seconds left of this. I will finish at the top of the hour. Closing remarks from you. What are you doing personally to ensure Viber reaches these enterprises that are not using your services today? How are you going about that as a leading chat app globally?
I think I would say that we're investing heavily in marketing on the one hand, marketing that goes beyond just educating our partners, like I said, and more goes towards educating the enterprises directly. We do need to make sure that all the partners that are actually in the loop don't feel that there is any miscommunication about the way that we go about it. And in addition to that, something that was not touched upon, we're rolling out solutions that are customizable for smaller and medium enterprises. Perfect. Because it's a sector that is largely overlooked by the aggregators that naturally tend to go towards the bigger enterprises.
Yeah. And look, from small acorns, big trees do grow, or something. There's some British English phrase. It's very true. You look at the likes of Uber and Airbnb, who were practically the first couple of customers of Twilio, and look how fast those two brands grew, which of course helped the growth of Twilio globally. So, Mariam, I'm going to leave it to you. We've got 3 minutes left. I'm going to give it to you to close this session, summarize, and I'd like to thank you and your company for sponsoring this webinar, and thank you for becoming part of the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. So, closing remarks from you.
Thank you, James. First of all, of course, I would like to thank all the industry experts with us today for accepting this invitation. What I want to say is that we need more and more like these sessions and these webinars. We need to open the discussions. We need always open discussions between the trusted partners, and I highlight the word trusted partners, and the mobile operators, and the other business messaging channels like what we have today with us, Viber. So I believe that we should always sit all together. We should always sit on round tables and discuss and be open in our discussions. We see now in this webinar, we have different point of views, especially when we talked about the flash calls, for example. So we have to discuss. We have to put in front of us all the challenges that we are currently facing. Nadir, please, if you can mute from your side. Yeah, so thank you. So we have to always put all the challenges in front of us so that we can overcome, because the challenges are becoming bigger and bigger, and we should find solutions, or else we will all be out of this market. So we should find a partnership approach in between all of us, the mobile operator, the other business messaging channels, the SMS aggregators who are trusted partners and who are really working hard to satisfy the customers from one side, the enterprises from one side, and the mobile operator from the other side, and to find and to maintain the balance in between the relationship between everyone. So let's discuss more, and that's it. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, everybody. I've just dropped a little link in there into the chat to everyone about flash calls. We've had a previous webinar about that. Indeed, MEF members have put together a fantastic educational piece about flash calling. So just go to the MEF website, go to the Insight section, look at reports. You'll find an amazing doc telling you all about flash calling, which was put together by MEF members. So thank you everyone for being here. Mariam, lovely seeing you again, and thank you for sponsoring this live webinar. I told you this 1 hour when we did the prep call, it would go so fast. We really needed two.
We'll have part two. As a
I know, we will have a part two, and we can bring this into the real world. And I think what MEF has not done as yet is had an event specifically in the Middle East, and that's something I would very much like to rectify, a business messaging event focusing on the Middle East, somewhere in the Middle East next year, I'm sure. So thank you to all my speakers. We've got Nadir, Mariam, Tamara, Gabriella, and Cristina. Have a lovely rest of the day, wherever you might be. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.